So since Pablo is giving the first keynote in Spanish, I will give this talk in Italian, if you don't mind. I'm joking, of course. It will be too much work for me to adding the subtitle on it. But some instruction for this talk. The first one is, usually I take a lot of picture and selfie of talks and me in the conference. It'd be great if you can take some picture of the slide that you like the most or the one you don't like, or some picture of me, and you send me after the talk. So it'd be great to have some feedbacks from this session. And I will show you at the end of the talk my contacts. That's back to the title of this presentation. I'm very happy to be here with you all and to be in this track. I'll try to talk to you about the problem or what is happening now for all the maintainers in the open source world, based on the fact that AI-assisted contribution is increasing so much and it's creating some changing in how we handle the contribution in our projects. But I'm trying to do this in a personal way, of course. My personal opinion, my personal past, and I try to share what I think and what I learned about this, being also in the community for a long time. And I try to do that showing you some picture of movie that helped me as a young child to have an opinion of this, or have some figurative images of AI and similar things. So this is the first picture ever I remember thinking about AI is the movie 2001 Space Odyssey from Stanley Kubrick. It impressed me a lot as a young child seeing this movie, because for the first time I was seeing a computer thinking in its own without any human contribution. And every time now that I think about AI, I think about these images. But I formed in this year new idea based on the AI, and I liked also collecting around some comments from people that shared about this topic. And I want to show you two of these comments. This is the first one from this person. It's a quite strong opinion about the tool, and I think it's something that we saw around quite often. And this is another opinion about the fact that you can trust or not the code you don't write yourself. I present to you the first person that added the comment is Edgar Giestra. Is the creator of shorter part algorithm that I personally studied at the university. And he was actually talking about COBOL in 1975, so a long time ago. And this is the second person, is Ken Thompson. Maybe you know him. He's the co-creator of Unix, and he was talking about the code itself was producing in his company in 1984. So as we can see in the history, a lot of situation repeats themselves. A lot of time new technology scare people, and the first reaction people have for new technology usually are to refuse them or to criticize without starting seeing them. It's understandable. Everyone loves their technology. They invested a lot of time in their project, and when there is something that can start disrupting a technology or an ecosystem, people are scared about what can happen. The second word that I highlighted in my title is maintainer, and this picture is the best picture I can think of about open source project maintained by volunteers. Since Randall showed these first images, every time I was showing some example of the idea of open source volunteer project, I used this one, because it's very simple to replace this data and put the name of your city, where you live, where people are contributing back. And also you can put the project you like the most, or you are contributing. In my case is, of course, Django. If you don't know, Django Reinhardt is the jazz guitarist that has been used as an inspiration for the name of Django, the framework, by the co-creator of the framework itself. I use every time this picture in my slide because it's public domain and it's a very good picture. But for today, I found another picture. I think it's an improvement. This is one. Okay, I'm joking. I asked the AI to modify it. I tried to do here a metaphor, asking the AI to modify the picture of Django. It's a very good metaphor of what you can do, asking AI to change a Django project or the Django code base. So the first thing we can see is the fact that the AI replaced a very old guitar with a new one. Maybe it's too new. A guitar for rock music or heavy metal. And it's a good metaphor of what AI contribution usually do in your code. They try to put the latest version of the packages or version of Python they can use. The second improvement has been the removal of a very bad behavior from the past. In this case, a smoking cigarette. I think this is an improvement for us. Sometimes the AI can contribute or remove something that has been in the project for a long time. Another changes that it took me a while to find was an additional finger here. I don't know how many of you have noticed it. Django Reinhardt was famous to have injuries in his hand, and he's developed a very specific way to play the guitar, and is famous for it, but for sure it has only 5 fingers. And this is a very good metaphor of sometimes the code produced by AI at the first look can be very good. You didn't notice that there is something very strange in it, and you need a lot of effort because it's very realistic, as in this case. The last thing that I put here is a very modern amplifier, which is not for sure possible to be used in the past when this picture was being created. But I think it's the element that I like the most, because in these months, in my mind, I created these images of the fact that AI is an amplifier, actually. This is the first picture I was able to find of an amplifier. And I think AI acts exactly an amplifier. It can amplify positive and negative things. It can amplify the contributors we have in our project, but at some time, it can amplify the low-level contribution we can have. It can amplify the code we can produce in very few times, but it also can amplify the untested code that we have in our project. So my original idea for this talk was the fact that AI does not change the nature of open source, but it changes the scale of it. So I am presenting myself. I'm Paolo Melchiorre, and I'm actually a board member of DSF, and I contributed in the Python community since a long time in various projects, as I'm showing you here. I'm organizer of PyCon Italia that will start next week in Italy. If you want to join, you are welcome, or maybe next year. And usually attend some conference around the world to speak about Django. And the last one I attended is this one. It's DjangoCon Europe in Athens that happened in April, and where I presented a first version of this talk, and where I get very interesting feedback from the community in Europe. And speaking with people there was a way, was an interesting way for me to change the sentence I just showed you In fact, speaking with people, we agree the fact that AI can change the nature of open source by changing the scale. Because sometimes the time or the energy of volunteers that contribute in open source is not unlimited. And so it can affect us quite a lot. In the last month, I tried to search on the internet some episode or some interesting facts about AI contribution in open source project. And I tried to collect all of them. But for this talk, I'm showing you only the most important one that I think it's interesting to see together. The first one is one of the first I found was a pull request for the OCaml project. Was one of the first pull requests I saw created with AI. That was a wide scope pull request without any prior discussion from the contributor, and that was impossible to review. In the pull request thread, after the maintainer closed, of course, this pull request, the discussion went ahead so long that they locked the discussion because it was shifting from the code itself to the fact that it was legit or not to have this huge pull request for the project. As you can see from the date here, we are speaking of November 2025. In the speaking of AI is years ago. The second project I found interesting to show you is the Godot game engine. In this case, we have moved from one pull request to multiple pull requests with very low understanding from the contributor and very high effort for the reviewer. That increased a lot the maintainer fatigue. In fact, one of the maintainers of the project write down this post on Blue Sky to describe how massive was the amount of pull requests created and the fatigue that the maintainers was having. And seeing the amount of reaction, you see that this has been something that other people agreed on. So we switched in a few months from one single pull request to multiple pull requests. Another interesting effect of AI has been on the JetBrains project. I think you know this one because it's very well known in the Python ecosystem, more in the Django one, but it also hosts some very good Python project like piptools. The JetBrains has some weak points, like the fact that it was too big with too many projects, limited number of maintainers. It has a very growing backlog, and it was already in a crisis of sustainability. And Janice, that was the creator of the project, wrote a very good article on sunsetting the project. And this is only an extract of the article. I invite you to read the article. And it's stated the fact that the pull requests generated by AI amplified the problem the project already had and accelerated the process to sunset this one. This is another interesting episode I found. I found out reading the Slack channel of PSF, and this is a project that has been created and increased a lot in the ecosystem. Of course, who created this project impersonated a famous identity and was uncertain from the beginning if the creator was a person or an AI or a bot. And this created a moment of problem in finding out what we were watching in this moment. If the project was created from an AI, a bot, or an agent, or some person. It reminds me of this movie from the 80s, Blade Runner, where they created this tool to try to find out if a person was a real person of an android. Maybe we have to create something similar this day to distinguish who we are interacting with. Another interesting episode is this one, as this pull request to the matplotlib packages, and I'm sure you know him because it's a very good Python project. And in this case, the AI generated a pull request, was a bot. The maintainer rejected it, of course, but the episode escalated outside the repo itself in a direct conflict with the maintainer. And this is only one message the bot added in the pull request. And he created a blog, the agent, and wrote an article against attacking personally the maintainer that closed the pull request, and then went back in the pull request thread with this passive-aggressive comment, and the thread went ahead for a long time. I only extracted this small, and this is frightening me a bit. It reminded me of this scene from the movie I show at the beginning when the AI refused to follow the instruction from the person. So in this case, the problem is not longer just bad code, but the conflict between AI and maintainers. So I think it's good for us to start to thinking about some form of protection from this episode. But the good part is the fact that project already started writing down some guidelines or policy to limit it or to originate this problem. I will show you some of them. There is plenty, but I think I found some interesting one. And this first is interesting because it's a guideline generically about every tool that contributor can use. It started only that the fact that the contributor is responsible for the contribution. And it's from the Python project in the generative AI section. The second extract I want to show you is this one. It suggests do not submit a pull request if the effort to create it is less than the effort that maintainer do to review it. And this is from the FastAPI documentation, the automated code and the AI section. This one is longer because it starts stating the fact that unverified AI-generated contribution can create a problem for maintainer. So they recognize this fact, and then they say that the submission can be closed if it's not evidence of human verification or manual verification. And this is from the Django project in the AI-assisted contributions. The next one is a stricter one from the previous. It says that developer capacity is something important, so they will reject low-value contribution if they believe it's generated by the AI. And it's from the matplotlib project, the one that was attacked directly from the bot. Going forward, this one is more strict than the others. It says that if they check the co-author attribute in the commit, if some LLM is listed there, they will close directly without any further discussion the pull request. And it's from the project in the AI policy. The last one is the most strict. I think it's no LLM for issues, no LLM for pull requests, no LLM for comments. And it's from the Zig project in their policy. So there are multiple ways to try to handle this interaction between AI and project, and different projects have chosen different way to handle them. I think as a community, we have to choose what we want to do, and it's important to us to discuss how we are doing here now in this track, and Speaking with other contributors in the previous talk I gave in DjangoCon Europe, some of them say that it's not mandatory to choose. We can avoid expressing something about the subject, but I'm not agree. If people from the outside go to our project and without finding anything about the topic, maybe they can understand that we agree in using this project. Or also if an AI or an agent search in our code and they cannot find anything specific for the interaction with the AI, they can presume the fact that they can use and contribute in every way they want. So the important thing, I think, is the fact that we, as a project, we think about it, we discuss internally, and we choose our personal way to handle this new technology. And there is no perfect answer for every project. I think everyone has to discuss internally, and the discussion is the important part. So trying to summarize my ideas about the topic, I think is that AI is another tool, is a new tool, maybe a better one. It amplifies problems and possibilities too. So we have to scale also our responsibility in our project and our protection. But the best thing I think we can do is to have more human in the loop, to discuss together, to connect with other people in our community. The only things that the AI cannot produce is connection between people. It can produce code and other things, but not the connection between contributors in our community and between the community. Speaking of human, this is me in San Diego 4 years ago. I was in DjangoCon US 2022. And the last day of the conference, we went for a swim in the ocean with other contributors of the Django project. It's been a very good experience to connect with other people. And has been an experience that I used to propose something new for the community, for the Django community, to create a moment specific outside from conferences, the other events, to connect together, to create some small sprint with both work on the code, but also sometimes for ourselves to connect and go together, networking, to create some personal connection between humans. And after 3 years, last year we organized the first Django sprint in Spain. And it's been a great opportunity to create very good code, but also to create very good connection between people that join us. And is one of the way we can possibly use as a community to maybe discuss about the AI topic. We will going to organize the next event in Pescara, my hometown, on the Mediterranean Sea, if you want to join, or if you want to read about the project, it can be interesting to replicate it also in the wider Python community or in other sub-projects. The fundamental idea is to have a low-effort events where we can code together on the project we like, but also we can connect as a person, and you can read it and share maybe with people on your community. Last thing you can share is also this slide, because it's released with a Creative Commons license. And I would appreciate some comments about the topic. You can find it on my personal website with all the connection on social. I will appreciate having some of your picture or comments about the topic. Thank you.
Great talk, fantastic. I loved especially the visual metaphors you kind of evoked, the sense of it, and it was a great flyover of the last 6 months, maybe, of drama. I want to ask specifically, you had mentioned the adders policy of disincentivizing co-authorship, like annotating that something has been authored with the help of a model. And I find myself like worried about that, because I think I'm a skeptic. I'm not particularly fond of these things, but I do think it is good to have that annotated. And I just wonder if you could say a few words, your opinion about how do you square that circle of we want the thing to be annotated, we want to know that the tool was involved, but then also there's room in the world for the policy to be we don't accept that.
Yeah. I personally think that we use a lot of different tools in the past to create and to accelerate the creation of a pull request. But usually we never added it as a co-author. Also in this case, I think that an AI can be a tool, maybe a powerful one, to create a new pull request, but it's not a co-author of your pull request. But it's my personal opinion. It can be important to know if a pull request is created with the help of AI. I agree with that, but maybe we can use a different attribute in the commit, or we can put in the description, and yeah, but it's not a co-author. I think it's a marketing way to promote the tools.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey there, I'm Nick. I work on Safety. It's an open source project that does vulnerability scanning. You've talked a lot about using AI to contribute to open source projects. I'm interested in whether you've seen maintainers using AI to kind of respond to those contributions, potentially to surface higher quality ones, filter out the lower quality ones. Are we seeing any projects doing that successfully?
Yeah, I personally use AI for my daily work and discussing in different projects, specifically in the Django one, to how to use them to help also maintainer. I think that one useful thing that we can do is to use AI to create some tools that are predictable in the results to help us to scan for vulnerabilities or to filter the contribution. Relying only on the AI tools to do all the job is risky, and a lot of time is you can have different results. So it can be better to help us to create new tools and help us to handle better this type of contribution.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I think this is the one you have to use.
When you are trying to check the thing that's contributed by AI, how can you tell if the code is generated by AI or by a human? Is there a way to do that?
I think it can be possible, maybe scanning it, but now the code that has been created with a different modern model are more and more better. They are increasing in the quality. So the things that I tried to show you was the fact that different project was trying to define some guidelines for the contributor to try to find a better way for them to declare the fact that they used some AI. We have to trust the contributor of our project, and this is the point, the trust between contributors and members of the community. At certain point, it can be impossible to distinguish the two of them.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, Jackie Hazel. So the project I run, Mesa, had participated in Google Summer Code, and one of the requirements we made was that you have to submit a contribution for us to consider you as a student. That was a mistake. 'Cause now we have a pile of poo in our PRs that we need to clean up. But in the Google Summer Code email list, all these maintainers were talking about this and these issues, and that was a great space. And I'm wondering if you know of any spaces where people are having these dialogues and having conversations around establishing some of these norms and some of the decisions that people are making behind these norms, like the ones you displayed.
Yeah, I saw different resources researching for this presentation. People are starting discussing about it. There is no one solution for it. I saw a project only yesterday they close every pull request they receive, and you have to reopen it as a comment, and this is in certain ways something that AI don't do easily. So in this way they distinguish between contribution from human or from AI. People are starting experimenting with these things, and maybe the best way can be share the most you can have with other project, or searching around for the solution people are starting to have. It can be also an idea to create here an open space and discuss about it. So this is the only suggestion. I think we finished the time. So before giving the word to Simon, I need to take a selfie of us. Is something, do you want to be part of it? So more human in the loop.
Humans in the loop, yeah.
Thank you.
Nice. Thank you, Paolo.